You won't believe some of the lies Americans believe about Germany. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany with our family, sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. For a nation in which over 41 million people claim to have German ancestry, the United States sure has a misunderstanding of Germany itself. Americans will proudly tell you they are German, but then turn around and ask you what's wrong with drinking beer from a plastic cup. For many Americans, they never get a chance to visit Germany themselves, but they hear lots of rumors about what life is like over there through different means. And sometimes, I don't want to call it propaganda, but they are told things that are said to make Americans feel better about being born in the land of the free and not a socialist country like Germany.
My favorite statistic right now is that if the UK, France, or Germany joined the United States as the 51st state, it would become the poorest state in the Union, poorer than even Mississippi. We won, okay? Send this here European to remind them who the real hillbillies are.
But Americans are told some things about Germany that makes them think, wait, why can't that be like that here? So what things had we heard or believed about Germany before moving here and finding out the truth for ourselves? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today in my video. I'm not going to let fly this ridiculous German lie. When you think of Germany, I bet you immediately imagine wide sandy beaches, the waves crashing, palm trees, and sipping coconut water straight from the nut. Well, maybe not. But replace the palm trees with Strandkörbe and coconuts with a few nudists, and you actually could be imagining North Germany. Although I've been living in Germany for about 6 years now, and I can tell you that Germans are a bit coconuts. No, coconuts are not native to Germany, and you won't find coconut bras hanging next to lederhosen at the traditional clothing stores in Bavaria. But this isn't the only nut. This isn't the only nut not native to Germany, but also pecans. Pecans? No. Pecans. So why then do Americans continue to believe that this cake is a traditional German cake? To our German viewers who would agree this cake looks delicious but disagrees they've ever seen their Oma make this one, this is a German chocolate cake. Nein, das ist not German. No, I know, but just give me a second. But you said that is a German chocolate cake, but I have never seen one of those in my entire life. Okay, stop, just let me explain real quick. In 1852, a man named Samuel created a special dark baking chocolate, which he named after himself. Baker's German's sweet chocolate. You see, his last name was German. Fast forward 100 years, and in 1957, the recipe of the day in the Dallas Morning News was a new cake recipe, German's chocolate cake. This cake used German's baking chocolate to give it the name and consisted of layers of chocolate cake filled and topped with a coconut pecan frosting. Over time, Americans dropped the possessive form of the name, and it just became German chocolate cake. People began assuming this was the popular cake of Germany based on the name, and nobody questioned why a Germanic cake would be centered around a coconut pecan frosting, two ingredients not even close to being native to Germany. So, for our American viewers, no harm done, but when you come to Germany, try eating a cold dog. I mean, ein kalter Hund, a cake that is neither a cake nor a cold dog, but in fact cookies stacked with layers of chocolate and is frozen. I don't know. Germany is widely known as the nation of rules and regulations. However, as we have found out over 6 years in Germany, just like Germany gets falsely accredited with creating this delicious chocolate cake with coconut pecan frosting, Germany also gets accused of having a lot more rules and regulations than it actually has, particularly when it comes to World War II related topics. For example, when I was here in university during my exchange program, I remember friends putting their hands up to high five or trying to wave down a taxi, and the other students freaking out, telling them that they could be fined or put in jail for doing that here. But this isn't true. You aren't hailing a taxi, you are hailing one. And this is completely legal to do in Germany. Germans aren't walking around with their arms pinned at their sides and peeking around anxiously to make sure the police aren't around before waving to a friend on the street, afraid of it getting confused with a Nazi salute. There's also stories that in Germany, some groups use the letters HH to secretly stand for Heil Hitler, or the number 88 to mean the same thing to add an additional layer of secrecy to the message because H is the 8th letter in the alphabet. Yet somehow the government cracked this complicated enigma and made their use illegal. Therefore, nobody's allowed to have anything that contains these numbers or letter combinations at risk of glorifying the former tyrant that led Germany during the 30s and 40s. But this also isn't totally true. Unless the German government overlooked the 800,000 cars that are registered in Hamburg bearing this message. Or that very specific and niche real estate investors are buying up properties only with the address number 88. Or what about this? Have you heard it is illegal to sing the real lyrics of the German national anthem?
Deutschland, Deutschland, liebe alles.
No. Turn that off. Arrest him. All of these things are definitely believed by a lot of the US if they have heard these rumors, and all of these may actually have potentially a seed of truth that has grown into a bigger myth than is actually true. So yes, in Germany, its history and responsibilities because of its past is taken very seriously. And there are indeed symbols and things you could do that are indeed illegal. For example, in German law, it is in fact very black and white written that doing a Hitler greeting, except in potentially educational ways, is illegal and could result in 3 years of prison or a fine. But simply raising your arm is not a problem like many mistakenly believe. And yes, there are groups that use 88 and HH as well as other numbers and letter combination symbols to stand for different Nazi themes, but at the same time, these are common numbers and letters. Once again, it's about context. Germany can't just ignore the number 88 existing. Hello? 90 pieces of money, please. 83, 84, 85, 86, 87. No. 89 and 90. Perfect. Now, is there anything else I can do for you today, Herr Müller? No, that is all I need. Perfect. Thank you. Bye-bye now. But Germany does have a very strict protocol about letters, numbers, symbols, images that are associated with extremist groups that are illegal to display. But also, some government authorities have interpreted the laws in different ways, which have sometimes led to license plates with certain numbers or letters from getting banned in local authorities.
Volker Krüger ist eine Gefahr für die innere Sicherheit Deutschlands. Schuld daran ist dieses Kennzeichen.
Die 28 steht auf Deutsch für Blut und Ehre. Und Blut und Ehre ist eine verbotene rechtsextremistische Organisation.
Und was hat die 28 damit zu tun?
Fragen Sie mich bitte nicht. Das ist einfach so.
The national anthem belief is an interesting one because this one actually isn't illegal like it is believed, but rather just uncomfortable for many today. The national anthem was written well before the Nazis were in power and before they used the first verse to represent Nazi pride. The words Deutschland, Deutschland über alles was initially intended to be used as a uniting phrase, meaning we are Germans above all other identities like Schwäbisch, Bayerisch, etc. But often people misinterpret its meaning as something like Germany is superior or dominant over everything else in the world, but that's not true. There's also historical borders mentioned that after World War II don't belong to Germany, which is problematic. The second verse uses other uncomfortable phrases to today's standards, like women being like property, something that you can own. Therefore, it isn't illegal to sing the other parts, but the third verse is now the only official part of the German national anthem as it talks about unity, justice, and freedom, much more appropriate national anthem themes, and it isn't associated with Nazis like the first part. So again, very much, yes, there are things you do have to be very careful about in Germany, and Germans do take very seriously, even punishable as crime serious, but putting your hand up to get a taxi, singing the first verse of what used to be officially part of the national anthem, and simply having the number 88 on something is not illegal.
All free men, wherever they may live, are citizens of Berlin. And therefore, as a free man, I take pride in the words, Ich bin ein Berliner.
Did John F. Kennedy really just call himself a jelly donut?
Ich bin ein Berliner.
Oh my gosh, what an embarrassment. No, he didn't. Oh, he didn't? Nein! Oh, but that's what all Americans think. Perhaps you have heard of this famous speech that JFK gave in 1963 in front of the town hall of West Berlin. In a few portions of his speech, JFK said a few lines in German, but only one of them has gone down in the history books as a supposed embarrassing blunder because he has been accused of having a bad translation of German and in front of thousands actually saying, I am a jelly donut. This has been a fun party fact for many Americans for decades. I can speak German.
What?
I said I can speak German.
Oh, that's so hot. Can you say something in German?
Ich bin ein Berliner.
Oh, wow.
That means I am a jelly donut. JFK said that once in a speech whenever he was speaking in Berlin and to an entire crowd looked like a fool because he said, I am a jelly donut. But that's not true. He actually said, I am a Berliner. So there is a reason, kind of, for the misunderstanding, and that's the fact that a jelly-filled donut is called a Berliner in this part of Germany. In this part is a Krapfen, here a Kreppel, in a few places a Faschingskrapfen, down here a Fastnachtsküchle, and importantly here in Berlin where the speech was given, it's called a Pfannkuchen. This is something that is hotly debated in Germany about what this pastry is actually called, as many dialects call it something different. But where JFK was giving this speech, because this is called a Pfannkuchen, regardless of it being called a Berliner in other parts of Germany, nobody would have thought of a jelly donut. There have been other arguments that the grammar is wrong, that if he truly wanted to say, I am a Berliner, he should have dropped the ein in the sentence and just said, Ich bin Berliner. And because of the ein used, this did make it sound like he is something like a donut. But this is also technically wrong. Technically speaking, ein would be dropped for someone who is born in Berlin and saying the sentence. But using ein is even very commonly used in this context by Germans, even if it's grammatically incorrect. However, for someone not born in Berlin and not actually from there, like JFK, using the word ein is grammatically correct because this makes it less I am from Berlin and more of I am a part of you, a term of belonging to a larger group rather than an identity per se. So no. And Americans need to find a new cool party fact and perhaps sign up for some German lessons. I officially became a German a few months ago, but if I'm being honest, the transition to becoming a German didn't magically happen the moment I received my citizenship certificate. I have been slowly changing, and at times, painfully. And perhaps it made me become something I may not have wanted to become. Like someone who overuses the phrases actually and let me explain you, like I'm about to do right now. In the US, you will often hear the term
good debt.
Good debt. Good flavor of debt.
Simply put, good debt makes you rich.
This isn't exclusively an American thing.
Aber gute Schulden, denn Schulden sind grundsätzlich nichts Schlechtes, davon kann man nie genug haben. Also ich habe gern viele und gute Schulden.
But it is a term you will hear a bit less frequently in Germany. But one good debt, or a debt that is supposed to be worth taking in order to receive a greater return on investment in the future, is the biggest chunk of US debt that isn't related to housing: student loan debt. This is a debt that Germans don't even think of taking, as 90% of students in Germany go to public universities. These public universities are touted around the world as amazing public education institutions that also happen to be free. But they are not free. Well, pretty much. No, they are not. They are not free. Okay, but compared to the crushing expenses of American diploma factories, they are basically free. But they are not free. Yeah, compared to American universities, they are substantially cheaper, almost not even comparable. But they are not free. Maybe I should just take over from here. In Deutschland, in all federal states, except for Baden-Württemberg, whether you are a German or an international student, you will have to pay a semester fee of 100 to 300 Euro for public universities. In Baden-Württemberg, non-EU und EEA students must pay a fee of 1,500 Euro per semester. In Bayern, public universities are allowed to charge tuition fees for non-EU students if they want, but only TUM does so in ranges from 2,000 to 3,000 Euro per semester for a bachelor's. If you attend a private university, you will need to pay around 10,000 and 15,000 Euro per year for a bachelor's degree. If you are an international student, there's also a 75 Euro application fee for a student visa. You'll need health insurance, which will cost you 130 to 150 Euro per month, and you'll have to have a blocked account with at least 11,904 Euro in it to show the German government you have sufficient funds for living expenses in order to receive a student visa, also not free. Okay, sure. So the American idea that you could just get accepted to a German university, come over and start studying without ever dropping a cent may not be completely true. But again, compared to what you would be paying for decades after you get done studying in the US, it's basically free. They are not free. Close enough though. To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is: how long does water have to be left in a cup sitting out before you say it's too old to drink? Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you in my next video.